Hey guys, it's HD here, and today we're looking at 37 glitches in Pokemon Black 2 and White 2. It's time to go back to Unova, which is fine by me as these are visually some of my favorite games. I feel like they really perfected the 2D atmosphere, and with the seasons changing the environment, it's just beautiful. But while there are some returning glitches from the original Black and White games, there are plenty of ones introduced from the new areas, and other ones I just didn't cover last time. Getting out of bounds, causing NPCs to clip through walls and walk on water, crashing the game just by using the pokedex, playing music tracks in wrong locations, and a whole lot more. So let's get into it. Well, just like our last video on Heart Gold and Soul Silver, we're going to kick this off with another surfing on land glitch that you can only do for one tile. This takes place in Pokestar Studios, and we just need a Pokemon with surf. Duh. All we gotta do is run over to the right side near the theater and this balcony. There's a row of trees, and if you simply walk up to the right side of them and press A, the usual question will pop up and ask if you want to use surf. Say yes, and we just hop on our Pokemon, clipping through the tree, and more importantly, surfing on land. I guess it's more just floating on land, not surfing, as we can't really move from this single tile. As you'd expect, the rest of the surrounding tiles are treated as solid objects, like this one should be. So, all you can really do is spin around a few times and press down to hop off. While it's pretty anticlimactic, it's still odd that this even exists. My only guess is that the body of water to our right extends underneath the ground here, and there's just a ground tile missing. I have no idea, but it does raise the question of, are there other spots throughout Unova that you could do this at? Since one exists, there is a chance that another one does too, right? I personally will not be going around mashing A near every single wall to find out, but maybe one of you know of another spot that this is possible in. On the topic of clipping through trees, we don't even need to surf for this one. We just gotta show up on our own 2 feet. Getting to the location is the hardest part. We gotta go to the giant chasm and find this cave exit, which brings us down into this mess of a forest. A bunch of trees are knocked over, restricting your movement a lot, but we basically need to get to the top left corner of this area, which you should stumble into eventually. Once in this section, there will be 2 rows of trees, and if we walk up here, we just phase right through them. For you to walk to the other side and collect this Carbos. Doesn't matter if you enter from the front or back, probably could have worded that better. The trees just don't block you for some reason. I promise I'm not using an action replay walkthrough walls cheat code or something, it is literally just this row. My only guess is that there originally was an opening here that you could just walk through, and then they changed their minds without updating the tile type. But then I went back and checked on the original Black and White games, went to the same spot in the giant chasm, and sure enough, these games have the trees stop way earlier than Black and White 2, and the glitch literally takes place in front of the first column of trees they added. So they must have just forgot to update the one set of tiles here, giving us this glitch in Black and White 2. I wonder if there's any other glitches like this where there's residual code left in from the original Black and White games. This is another glitch involving residual code left in from the original Black and White games. All we gotta do is run to the village bridge, east of Opelucid City. We need to be on the right side of the bridge and head down towards the tennis court. If we walk around pressing A in the upper right portion of the court, we will randomly be stopped on this tile, bringing up the text box saying, Village Bridge Restaurant. Village sandwiches are our specialty, which is very odd as there's no sign here or a restaurant. It's just a tennis court. Some of you may already know where this actually is. In the original Black and White, if we go to the same location, there actually is a restaurant here, along with a sign that reads the same message, which is pretty neat as the devs did remove the sign, but forgot to remove the message shown if you interact with the tile. Why the restaurant was replaced by a tennis court, I have no idea. But anyway, that's 2 spots now where there's leftover code from creating the sequels, meaning there could be other things in these games to find, but these are the only 2 I know of. So this is a pretty crazy one. Did you know you can literally crash the game just by messing around with your Pokedex? It's not even hard to do either. Start by going into your dex and making sure you're on the Unova dex, if you have the other dexes unlocked. Then find a Pokemon you've seen or caught that can be found on the same route as a non-Unova Pokemon that can be found by fishing. That was a little confusing, but I'll use Azurill, but there are other options like Psyduck. Anyway, select them, press right to switch to area, A to bring up the cursor, and then hover over the route that they can be found, and press A again to view details. Once on this screen, switch tabs so you can see the list of fishing Pokemon. Then again, select a Pokemon that's outside of the Unova dex, so in my case, Poliwag on Route 20. Press A one more time to bring up their dex page, and as long as the number next to their name is just question marks, we should be good to trigger the glitch. From this point, just click B twice to go back to the area map screen, but you might notice it now says area unknown, and for some reason, we're looking at Victini's Pokedex entry and area. No clue why this happens, but the game likely tried to load Poliwag's entry, but since we're outside of the Unova dex, it couldn't, so it just defaulted back to 000, the top entry of Victini. So that's weird, but alright. However, That's only if you've seen Victini and had the Dex page already, which, if you didn't know, is only possible if you have the Liberty Pass, an item given away in 2011 that Nintendo—
We are not doing this whole 5-minute rant thing again, dog.
Right, sorry. But seriously, if you don't have Victini in your Dex at all and are on this area screen, press left to switch tabs, which will cause the game to crash, bringing up this weird screen that just says, "An error occurred, please turn off the power," with the music still playing normally in the background, which is a pretty crazy message to see in general. If you were on this screen and press right to bring up its cries, the game will legitimately freeze along with the music and no error message is displayed. This is pretty crazy to me. I've never seen such an easy way to crash a Pokemon game, especially because it's just pretty standard menuing. We were just looking at some Pokedex entries and the game defaults back to Victini and also crashes. So 2 little glitches in one here. So if you're really bored and feel like crashing the game, it's pretty easy to do so. So this one's very odd and has to do with partners following you around. It's actually possible to desync them and create this very weird scenario, but in order to do it, we need to be at a specific point in the game. After defeating Skyla and getting the 6th gym badge and talking to Professor Juniper in Celestial Tower, you'll be able to take a flight over to Lentimus Town. From here, we need to head east to enter Reversal Mountain from the west side. By the way, if you're playing on Black 2, it'll be like mine where it's dark and full of water, but White 2 is more volcanic and has lava. That doesn't really matter though. All that matters is when you enter the main part of the cave, Bianca joins you as a partner and begins following you around. From this point, all we gotta do is run down, taking down these 2 trainers and then continuing down until you reach this entryway. Go in it and then take the path down to end up outside. This will be important in a moment as we've now set a new place for an escape rope to take us. Now head back inside and we need to go back to where we entered from originally. Once we reach this entryway, Bianca will say that she still wants to look around, so she'll be waiting for us when we get back. Then when we're back out in this section of the cave, use the escape rope. You might see where we're going with this, but since we stood outside for a moment, the escape rope will send us back outside on this cliffside. So now the glitch is basically activated. When you go back inside and pass this section into the main room, Bianca's text will pop up like you entered back from where you left her. After the dialogue, the game is now back in partner mode, but where's our partner? Bianca is still in the top left part of this room, so we're incredibly separated. The game will try and reconnect you by having Bianca take a step every time you do so, slowly getting closer and closer back to you. So if you were to go back up, she'll literally clip through walls to reconnect with you and keep mimicking your movements, which is pretty neat on its own. But eventually, after some more disconnected running around, she will end up right behind you again. So that's pretty neat, but I wanted to test this out some more. While still disconnected, if you enter any load zone, she will end up right behind you again, no matter how far away she originally was. Creepy. Same thing with wild battles. Even though she was nowhere near us, she immediately comes to our aid in a double battle. But after that, she actually won't be caught up yet. So you can still run around a good amount without having her actually be next to you. And even when she's close, you can keep running to make her clip through just about anything. NPCs, walls, rocks, and whatever else. She will stop at nothing to be by your side. So overall, pretty funny and a pretty unique glitch involving partners. Don't think this is possible with any other partners in these games, as we need this specific scenario where a partner will follow you outside and give us the ability to escape rope away to mess where we are when we rejoin them. Well, I lied to you guys. I said at the start we're covering 37 glitches, but there's actually a secret one I wanted to mention. It's how many of you aren't subscribed. Haha. I know every YouTuber asks at this point, but subscribing really does help out the channel a lot and lets YouTube know I make videos worth watching. If you really want to know, it's been a dream of mine since I was like 14 years old to get a YouTube play button, and I'm almost halfway there. So if you like Pokemon games, glitches, or other Nintendo glitches in general, please help me achieve a bucket list thing for me. Still got a long ways to go, but I know I will hit it one day. Okay, enough of personal me, let's get back to glitch guy me. This next one technically is a battle glitch, but we don't actually have to use any moves to trigger it. We simply have to be in a battle. So every Pokemon has a unique cry and it plays when you throw the Pokemon out. Pretty normal, right? Well, this game does something cool, or at least tries to, when Pokemon are on low HP. So whether you're just starting a battle or switching into a Pokemon and your Pokemon is in the yellow for health, their cry will be a lower pitch and I think a little slowed down. Have a listen. This is done to signify the fact that the Pokemon isn't in the best shape. So you would think that throwing out a Pokemon in the red would play the same weakened cry, or even lower, right? No, it actually plays the normal cry like you were perfectly healthy. Maybe the fact that the intense music kicks in, that they forgot to add in the distorted cry, I have no idea, but it definitely isn't intentional. I'll play them one more time in a row so you can hear the difference a little better. It's nothing crazy, but you can definitely hear it if you listen for it. So yeah, just really odd and kind of a shame, as it would have been neat if it actually played the really distorted cry when in the red. On the topic of battle glitches that don't need moves to trigger, and are kind of a shame that they exist, this one is way more impactful than just audio not playing. This one can put your Pokemon at risk, and there's no way to control it. So Shed Shell is an item Pokemon can hold that claims it enables the holder to switch with a waiting Pokemon in battle, which basically means it allows you to switch out your Pokemon in battle regardless of abilities or moves that would normally trap that Pokemon, like Mean Look for example. However, something in the code makes this item a huge risk to hold. It seriously blew my mind the first time I tried it. So literally all you have to do to see this glitch is go into a battle with your first Pokemon holding a Shed Shell. That's it. Congrats. There is now like a 75% chance that you trigger the glitch. If you go into your Pokemon and swap to another one, which should trigger Shed Shell, it comes up with the message that your Pokemon can't be switched out. Doesn't say why or how, you just can't. Womp womp. So now you're just stuck in a battle with your first Pokemon, even though it's literally holding an item that's supposed to let you switch into any other Pokemon in any other situation. Literally, even if there's no moves or abilities being used to block you, there is still a very good chance that this glitch just triggers anyway. You'll see here I'm on Route 19, which is basically Route 1 of these games, and have level 2 wild Pokemon. Even with level 80 Pokemon, if they're holding a Shed Shell, you are just trapped sometimes. For me, during testing, I went into roughly 15 battles, and 12 of those times, I got the message when trying to switch. It would rarely work, and for no reason. There seems to be no rhyme or reason to this either. The game will just trigger it, or it won't. There was even one time where it happened 5 times in a row with my Bidoof, forcing me to battle the Pokemon or run away. Again, this is crazy that this is even a thing, and more interesting that there's no set way to trigger or prevent it. Maybe it does behave like normal if your Pokemon did have a trapping move or ability, I really have no idea. But the fact that a level 2 wild Pokemon is blocking me is absurd. Another weird fact about this is that this doesn't happen during linked battles, so I have no way of confirming if using Mean Look would actually correct the glitch and let you switch out. Another finding from testing is that this only happens with Pokemon you lead with. If you switch into a Pokemon holding Shed Shell, it would work every time like it should. So I mainly wanted to cover this glitch as a warning to you people watching, especially for those of you doing Nuzlocks of these games. Usually you'd have your lead Pokemon as the one who sets up weather conditions or traps, then could use Shed Shell to guarantee you get out of there safely. But nope, an item that is specifically designed to help you escape does the opposite and most of the time prevents you from leaving. So if you're doing a Nuzlocke or some sort of challenge, never give your lead Pokemon a Shed Shell, because like 80% of the time, you'll be forced to fight with that Pokemon. This is seriously insane though. I have never seen an item this glitched before, and with no way of knowing how to prevent it. Alright, I'm looking to set a Seawilly HD record for the second shortest glitch I've covered next to Bouncy Grass in Legends Arceus. When encountering a wild Sandile, their animation will cause their mouth to clip through the floor for the first time when they're being revealed. It can also happen sometimes when you, or they, use a move and the camera shifts. Looks funny, but doesn't do anything. Next. This was a glitch I covered in the original Black and White games, and it's still a thing you can do in battles, completely disabling a Pokemon. As crazy as it sounds, you can prevent just about any Pokemon from attacking for the rest of battle, and we only need 2 moves to do it: Sky Drop and Gravity. Sky Drop is a 2-turn move where you drag a Pokemon into the sky with you and drop them down on the next turn. So think of it like the move Fly, but more grabby. Then Gravity is a field altering move where everyone is shoved down to the ground, preventing moves involving flying. You might see where we're going with this, but we need a double or triple battle as we need to use Gravity in the same turn as Sky Drop. So I found some trainers that are totally willing to get their Pokemon disabled and began the battle. So you can technically do this at any point during it, but again, we need to use Sky Drop and Gravity on the same turn, and have Sky Drop go before it. So I just did it on turn 1. I chose to bring the Scraggy on the right into the air, and then have Porygon 2 use Gravity. This essentially drops both Pokemon back down to the ground, brings up the message that they couldn't stay airborne, and no damage is done to either of us. However, while no one lost health, there's technically damage done to the Scraggy as it can no longer move. For some reason, the game only restored my Rayquaza state back to normal, but never Scraggy's. So while its sprite is visible again and back on the ground to the game, it still thinks it's permanently now stuck in the sky, waiting for the Rayquaza to slam him back down, but they never do. No messages are displayed or anything. They literally just never use a move again for this battle. You'll see even after knocking out the other normal Scraggy, every other turn is just my 2 Pokemon going, and then it just skips over him, meaning there is nothing this guy can do to win the battle now. The only 2 ways the trainer could correct this is by switching them out or letting them die. But this trainer only has 1 Pokemon, so it's just checkmate. Even when the gravity wears off, it won't be corrected. So technically, I could have waited for the first wave of gravity to wear off after 5 turns, then Skydrop Gravity the other Scraggy to completely break this battle where neither Pokemon could move. Pretty terrifying. Now luckily the devs became aware of this glitch pretty quickly, and Skydrop was banned in Wi-Fi random matches and official tournaments starting November 10th, 2010, just 2 months after Black and White 1's original release. So why didn't they fix this prior to releasing Black 2 and White 2? I have no idea. Maybe it would have been too complicated to rework the battle engine. But I do think it's interesting that the move Skydrop was just completely banned in competitive play altogether, not just using the combination of it and gravity. It's a base 60 physical attacking flying move that some Pokemon could have really benefited from. Sure, Aerial Ace has basically the same stats, but it doesn't let a Pokemon dodge attacks while they're in the air on turn 1, so I guess Fly is the closest equivalent. Really strange overall, but the game can't ban it during normal playthroughs, so it is still helpful to know and use whenever you're in a pinch. So this one's gonna be a doozy. Game Freak was nice enough to just hand me a glitch for free by baking it into the game, but you still have to jump through some hoops in order to even see it. Challenge mode. On paper, it's a really cool and unique feature that Pokemon fans have always asked for. The same trainers from the normal game will have higher level Pokemon, better movesets, improved decision making for using those moves, held items, and even some extra Pokemon. This sounds pretty awesome, right? Seems like the perfect way for experienced players to replay through these already great games. Well, as some of you may know, Game Freak completely dropped the ball on the execution of this mode. Like, really badly. I say this for 2 reasons. 1, because when I tell you the normal intended way to unlock it, you'll think I'm joking. And 2, the glitch itself, which is the fact that the code for this mode is just broken. Allow me to start by explaining how to unlock and play challenge mode. You will need 2 DSs and 2 copies of these games, with one of them having to be Black 2. They can both be Black 2, or one can be Black 2 and the other White 2. This alone should raise some red flags. Don't worry, it gets worse. You have to beat the game, aka defeating the Elite Four and the Champion Iris, on Black 2 to be given the challenge mode key. But oh, we're not done yet. You can't just start a new save on this copy with challenge mode enabled. No. You have to take your other copy of the game on the other DS, delete any save data off of it, and transfer the challenge mode key through the Unova link on the main menu. Then, finally, once you get the key on this second copy with no save data, only then can you play through the full game with challenge mode enabled. Is this not completely insane? Why on earth you need 2 DSs and 2 copies of the game to do this? I know I've complained about Game Freak's decision-making process for other games, but this one has to be the worst one. And you want to know what you get for doing all of these overly complicated steps? A glitched, barely working version of the mode. While the Pokemon's levels are higher visually, they are secretly still the same exact Pokemon as the normal mode. I'm not kidding. Due to the broken code, the Pokemon stats are still the same as the normal lower level version. I will say that again, the Pokemon stats are still the same, so a level 45 Pokemon in the normal game will still have the same exact HP, attack, defense, and speed as the same level 50 in challenge mode. It literally does not matter if the Pokemon is given higher IVs in challenge mode, the final stats are still what they used to be in normal mode with the lower IVs. Want proof? Take a look at me using Seismic Toss during the Champion Iris battle. In normal mode, they have a level 57 Hydreigon. Seismic Toss does damage equivalent to the user's level, so in my case, my level 100 throw should do 100 damage flat. On paper, the Pokemon's HP should end up in different spots, since they are different levels with different total HPs. But they don't. It loses the same exact amount of HP. It just gets into the yellow on Classic mode, and the same thing happens during Challenge mode with them being level 61. This seriously blows my mind how they messed it up this bad. Not only do you have to have 2 DSs and 2 copies of the game, beat Black 2 to unlock this mode, and then transfer the key, you are still rewarded with a broken version of this mode. So let's try and look at some positives though, shall we? The trainer's decision making is better. They have more and better held items and sometimes more Pokemon, so it still makes the battles a little more challenging, right? Plus, since the Pokemon are technically higher leveled, you do get more experience and money. Also, one other side note, the same glitch happens in White 2's easy mode as well. So a level 25 Pokemon might become level 20 in easy mode, but the stats are still calculated for a level 25. So it actually makes it slightly harder, technically. Anyway, with all this being said, for those of you who really want to play a form of challenge mode, I can recommend a few options. If you don't have 2 DSs or 2 copies of the same game for some reason, Like most normal people, you can either try and find a save file online that hasn't started the game but has the challenge mode key transferred to it, or simply find a ROM hack or mod of the game that fixes the coding, allowing for the stats of the higher level Pokemon to actually be higher. Both of these require you to have knowledge in altering cartridges though, or using an emulator. So all I can really recommend for those of you who want to play on clean original hardware, you could just make up your own version of challenge mode. Just boot up a regular old game and try and pick Pokemon with bad stats or stay underleveled. You could also do the classic Nuzlocke challenge or something. Up to you. But regardless, this is one of the most obscure and unique glitches in any Pokemon game, as there are no other games that have this kind of challenge mode, nor this insanely complicated setup to even play it. Speaking of keys, this one's not nearly as annoying, and not really anything crazy either. So the White Forest is a post-game area, and if you're playing White 2, already just exists in your game, similar to how Black City is the default for Black 2. If you are playing Black 2, like me, you will need to do a similar setup to the challenge mode thing and get a key. Someone else or yourself on a second DS will need to beat White 2, reach the White Forest, clear Area 5 of the White Tree Hollow, which is like the Black Tower in Black 2, cool battling area where you fight through regular trainers, nurses, and boss trainers to progress through each floor. But anyway, in White 2, once you beat Area 5, you will get the Tree Hollow key. And like challenge mode, you'll have to transfer it to a Black 2 save file by using a second DS. What's a little nicer, I guess, is that you can use a completed save file this time. You don't need to start fresh. Simply go into the Unova link and toggle which area you would like to be in that location, Black City or White Forest. However, if you're playing on Black 2 and really don't care for the White Forest, I wouldn't jump through hoops in order to do this glitch, and you'll see why in a moment. All this glitch is a single missing shadow from one of the trees, specifically this top left one just outside the Tree Hollow entrance. The rest of the trees around here all have this dark circular shadow, but this one just doesn't for some reason. Again, could have been a last minute addition and there was originally nothing here, but unlike the others, this is pretty easy to spot from a developer's perspective, or spending all of 2 minutes in this area. So anyway, if you're playing on White 2, go check this one out, and if you're on Black 2, I'd just pause the video and stare at this for a few moments to see all this glitch has to offer. So we have a few music-based glitches to cover in these games, which is totally fine by me, as I always love the Pokemon soundtracks. Anyway, let's kick this off by messing with the music's tempo. So when you enter certain caves that have multiple floors, you'll hear this music track on the top floor, which is usually where you enter. Keep in mind the tempo and pitch this music is playing in. Then when you go down to a deeper floor, the music gets slowed down and also creating a lower pitch. This is cool on its own and kind of creates a sense of dread or fear as you dive deeper into these caves, like you might get lost or something. Anyway, while this lower speed track is playing, save and reset the game. Then just reload your save file. Since we're still on the lower floor, we should expect to hear the deeper, slower music, but we just don't. It plays the one like we were on the top floor again. So not quite my tempo, only when you change floors again will the music correct itself. My guess is that the game doesn't actually have 2 separate audio files for this caves theme, it only has one, and when you go to take the stairs to go down, it applies a slow effect to the track. So when you save and reset on a lower floor, the game only sees that you're in a cave and plays the regular track, not getting the chance to apply the slow filter until you change floors again. This glitch can occur in Chargestone Cave, where I'm at right now, as well as the Dream Yard and Wellspring Cave. So pretty cool, and if you personally think the slowed down music is too creepy, just spend 30 seconds saving and reloading your save every time you're down here. In a similar fashion, we can actually trigger the reverse effect of this by doing a different setup. We can actually trigger the slower music track in areas that it was never intended to play in. In this example, I'll be glitching the Moor of Isurus, which the music normally sounds like this. I'll do this again in Chargestone Cave, but it can be done in Wellspring Cave as well. Anyway, we need to be on a lower floor so the slower music track is playing, then either be surfing or hop on our bike. This will trigger different music to play. From this point, we need to use dig or an escape rope to leave the cave entirely, so use one of those. Once outside, all we gotta do is travel to Pinwheel Forest, Moor of Isurus, or the Desert Resort, which you can use fly, it won't correct the glitch. Then finally, once you reach one of these places, just head inside. This music will now be playing a slower, lower version here. This was never intended and seems to be a residual effect from leaving an area with slowed down music. I guess since we were on a bike or surfing with the different music playing when we escaped warp out, the game never undid the slowed down effect. So when we enter an area that plays the same music that can be slowed down, it applies the effect here instead. So here we are with music that should never play in this area, as there isn't an underground or lower area we can reach to trigger this music normally. I like this one a lot though, as the slowed down music is such a vibe. Throughout Unova, there are some towns that feature NPCs playing instruments, like the guitar player in Opelucid City, the accordion player in Nat Green City, and the clappers in Isurus City. While they are pretty cool and unique NPCs, they actually have a feature built into them where they play along with the town's theme when you stand near them. I'll be using the clapping group in this example. Pay special attention to the song playing when I'm standing far away, and then as I get closer to them, you can start hearing the clapping. It's that ch-ch-ch sound. You hear how it only plays this extra track in the music when I'm standing near them? Well, we can actually keep this extra instrument playing anywhere in the town/city. All we gotta do is stand close enough that you can hear them already, and then pull out your Pokemon menu, select one with Fly, and fly to the same town/city you were just in. So in my case, Isurus City. Seems weird, but when you land back in, the clapping portion will permanently play anywhere in the town. You no longer have to be standing near them to hear the ch-ch-ch sound. So that's kind of neat, just adds a little extra pizzazz when you're running around here. You can actually do this in reverse though, where if you're standing somewhere far away from the musical NPC and then fly to the same town/city you were in, even when standing right next to the NPCs, the extra part of the track will not play. In both cases, the audio glitch will not be corrected until you reload the music track by either leaving the area and coming back, or entering the Pokemon Center to trigger a different track completely. Not exactly sure what's going on here, but clearly flying to the same town you're already in causes the music track to remain locked into whatever state it was at the time. So whether you like the extra instruments playing or not, there's ways to keep it on or off permanently. Our last music-based glitch is a battle one. During certain parts of the game, another person may follow you around an area or section of the game, like we saw with Bianca earlier, but also here when you get down to the Castelia sewers for the first time. Your rival will ask you to help find Team Plasma. This is just one example, but there are others, and you can do this glitch during any of them. All we have to do while having a partner is run into a wild Pokemon. Since there are two of us, it will also be a double battle. Anyway, we just have to defeat them. Doesn't really matter how, what matters is that after the battle, usually you'll hear the same wild Pokemon victory music you always do. However, it actually plays the trainer victory theme, like you defeated a pair of them. Have a listen. Now have a listen to the music if you yourself won a wild double battle. See how they're different? This only happens when you have a partner following you around. I'm not sure if the game gets confused as they're technically two trainers, us and the NPC in battle, that it automatically thinks we're facing one another, or what, but it's odd. You could make the argument that this is intentional as it's playing the different music for you and your partner overcoming the battle together or something, but I don't know. I'm in the camp of this being a glitch in the game assuming it's a battle due to two trainers. Let me know what you think, because almost every time I post a Pokemon video, there's always one music glitch that some will say is an intentional part of the game. While we're down here in the Castelia sewers, there's actually one more glitch we can look at here, because this trainer, Janitor Brady, has two Pokemon, and the first one's a Marill. Now that might not mean anything to you, but my Amoonguss currently has 150 HP and 11 HP EVs. So all I need is one more HP EV and I'll gain a stat point, bumping it up to 151. This is where Janitor Brady comes into play. Wait, is it Brady or Brandy? Is it Brady or... oh, fuck. It's Brady. It's Brady. This is where Janitor Brady comes into play. They have two Pokemon, Marill and Chinchino, and Brady's lead is Marill, which gives 2 HP EVs. Perfect. In order to see this glitch, we need to gain enough HP EVs in the middle of a battle to bump up their actual HP stat, but not have the battle end right away. So we have time to look at its summary in the bottom screen. So this glitch is possible in other areas throughout the game, you just need something similar to this. But Janitor Brady and Castelia Sewers was perfect in my case. Anyway, I knocked out the Marill, gained some XP, but didn't level up, and stayed in while they threw out their next Pokemon. Now we just have to click Pokemon, and boom. you'll see we gained HP EVs enough to push us over to 151, but the HP bar in the top screen still shows 150, as it didn't get a chance to update. So that's neat. Now if I would have leveled up when I defeated the Meryl, the glitch wouldn't have triggered, as the game would have had a chance to refresh the HP, but due to the more hidden nature of EVs and it being in the middle of a battle, it doesn't update. Now after I pulled this off, I was just messing around trying to see any side effects, and I noticed that if you switch out to another Pokemon and then check their stats again, it says I have 150 of 151, which feels kind of unfair if you ask me, but then if you switch them back in, it pops up at 150 again. So it's even more strange how it doesn't recalculate it even when it definitely has a chance to when switching mons. Now from this point, I wanted to see what would happen if I let the Pokemon take me down. Would I magically live on 1? Or will it say I'm dead when it shows 1 on the Pokemon screen? So I started spamming Great Balls at this thing, which Brady swatted away, and after reaching 0, I fainted and was brought to this screen, where it said I was at 0 out of 151, which, to be fair though, I wasn't going to survive the attack even if I had the extra single health point. However, according to Bulbapedia, there's a side effect to this glitch where even if this attack did 150 damage, and I would have technically lived if the game was keeping up with the EVs, the same thing would happen and I would still be marked as fainted. So I mean, an insanely slim chance for this exact situation to happen anyway, but hey, maybe it happened to one of you out there. But regardless, still a neat little glitch where gaining HP EVs don't matter on the top screen's health bar and won't refresh until you level up or finish this battle. Well, it's not often there's a glitch you can do without even playing the game, as it takes place right after you boot up the game. So normally, like most Pokemon games, there'll be a little intro section. For these games, it's the Pokemon logo and copyright, along with the Game Freak logo and an intro cutscene, and then it finally takes you to the title screen where you can advance to your save file. After booting up this game a few times, I'd bet money that most of you either mash A or B to skip through this and start playing faster. Well, did you know you can actually stall the title screen from showing up at all? All you have to do is mash A and B simultaneously while the Game Freak or intro cutscene is on screen. Doing so will cause the audio to cut out and the screen just freezes until you stop mashing A and B together. Then it finally takes you to the title screen. Here's what that sounds like. Yeah, so pretty weird, but also pretty funny you can even do this. Again, the only limit to the freeze is that you really have to be mashing and you press both buttons at the same exact time. I got this pretty long one during the intro cutscene by mapping A and B to the same button on my controller, and then I just spammed the one button. I promise these weren't edited in any way either. You can try this yourself if you don't believe me. The only thing you have to keep in mind is that this will only work if you wait for the Game Freak or intro cutscene to be on screen. You cannot start mashing during the Pokemon logo or copyright stuff. That will just do what you expect and advance you to the title screen quicker. Regardless, a pointless glitch, but one I'll probably try to do anytime I boot up this game from now on. If you fail it, you literally just go to the title screen and you can start playing the game, so there's no real harm. On the topic of easy glitches that don't require a lot of effort, this one just requires you to own a specific TM and open your bag. The culprit in question is TM94 Rock Smash. Taking a quick peek, do you notice anything weird? The disc icon is actually that of a rock type TM. You'll see the other rock type moves around it feature a tan-like disc, and then when I hover over a fighting type TM, it's more of a dark orange. Doesn't actually affect the game or the move in any way. This is purely just a visual goof by the devs. Can't really fault them for this one though. There's a lot of TMs that start with the word rock that are rock type moves, and I doubt many players even pay attention to the disc icons and just look at the type at the bottom. So I'll let this one slide, but still an easy glitch you can see just by owning the TM. Here's a battle glitch that I've covered multiple times in other videos, as it's a glitch in Gens 5, 6, 7,
Don't do the joke.
and even 8. But it's not that crazy, so it's not a huge deal that it took forever to be patched out. It involves the ability Own Tempo and the move Baton Pass. So by themselves, Baton Pass is a move that allows you to switch out your Pokemon, but also pass along stat changes and also the Confusion condition. Own Tempo is an ability some Pokemon have, like the Spinda, where it prevents the user from getting confused. You might see where I'm going with this, but for this glitch to activate, we ultimately need to have a Pokemon that's confused use Baton Pass and switch into a Pokemon with Own Tempo. This is pretty hard to have happen in a random trainer battle, so I went into a double battle, used Confuse Ray with my own Haunter onto my other Pokemon Girafarig, who knew Baton Pass. Then, as long as they don't hurt themselves, Baton Pass is used, and we can switch into our Spinda with Own Tempo. When you throw them out, you might notice the ability tag does not appear right away. Another Pokemon begins to go, and then once their turn is over, it finally appears on screen and clears the confusion. Literally. So the glitch is that this own tempo tag only appears on screen after the next Pokemon takes their turn. So the first time I tried it, the opponent's Pokemon used to move first, then it popped up. However, if I change my Girafarig level to 1, so it goes last in the turn order, luckily managing to survive, I Baton passed into my Spinda again. Since we went last, the turn ended. So now I'm back on the move select screen with a Spinda that has own tempo and also still technically has confusion on right now. But it's still not a big deal. Even if we go first the next turn, the ability tag will still appear before using a move. To some of you, this might not even sound like a glitch, and I was a little skeptical at first too after covering this like 3 times, so I experimented. I found that even when a Pokemon with the ability Intimidate is switched into with Baton Pass, the ability tag triggers right away. So the game definitely does usually check the Pokemon's ability that's switching in, but for some reason, own tempo is just glossed over and eventually corrected. Either way, this can't actually harm you in any way, so it's not a big deal that this glitch has remained in games for 10 years. Speaking of glitches involving confusion that are possible in Gens 5, 6, and 7, this one is actually harmful. When a Pokemon is holding some berries, like a citrus berry, and goes below half health, it's supposed to activate, healing you back up a little bit. However, there is one single instance where this doesn't happen, if you hit yourself while confused. This is how Dino conveniently demonstrated how 1 is correctly used. They dropped under half health from my attack, and then healed back up to green. Now, as you can see, I was over half health with my Krokorok, then due to confusion, I hurt myself and dropped below half. And it just didn't pop at all. It is only when someone else attacks you will it trigger. This can be incredibly annoying and even cost you a battle, because confusion can cause some pretty serious damage, and if your opponent outspeeds you, it's likely that you won't even be able to get another attack off like you should have been able to, as you were saving the berry for when you got low. So if you either can't break through confusion, or the other Pokemon outspeeds you and can deal a lot of damage, this glitch could really screw you over. Even in my footage, you'll see I just barely lived on 3 health after taking an attack, and then the berry finally popped. But if that was a high roll, it would have knocked me out completely. Like I said, this is possible in the Black and White games, X and Y, Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, and Sword and Shield. So I'm confident that this glitch has screwed over at least one person, maybe even hundreds or thousands. This is a glitch you can do within the first hour of starting a new save file. It takes place in Floccesy Town/Ranch, which is where we'll be spending the next 4 glitches actually. This is a pretty buggy area. But anyway, when starting a new save file, after being taught how to catch Pokemon on Route 19, you'll be free to start exploring the world. As you get to the end of this route, Alder, who was the champion in Black and White 1, yells down to the player from atop a cliff. He then jumps down a good 20 feet, so his leg should be broken, but then he guides you into Floccesy Town. Keep following him, and he insists on training you, but only once you deliver the second town map to a rival up on Route 20. If you go back and talk to him before doing this, he will keep saying the same dialogue and won't train you until you do so. So after running up Route 20 and into Floccesy Ranch, we run into our rival, aka Hugh, who I named non-subs, as you guys are my true rivals. But anyway, he challenges you to a battle, and after defeating him, you will finally be able to hand him the town map. Great. Now all we gotta do is go back. Oh, never mind. The owners of the ranch actually approach you and ask you to help them finding their missing herdier. Herdier, Hodor. Non-subs then runs off deeper into the ranch, and the game pretty clearly expects you to do the same. But all Alder wanted from us was to deliver the town map, so let's just leave non-subs and run back. Also, complete side note, if you leave the ranch and come back in, the owners will just be shifted to the left 1 tile. No clue why that happens, and it might be a minor glitch too, I have no idea. But anyway, without finding the lost herdier, I ran back to Alder. When you talk to him, he still says the same dialogue that we need to deliver the town map, which we technically already did. So this was the glitch I wanted to show off. The game clearly never expects you to run back to town without rescuing the Pokemon, so it just has the same dialogue as before. Yes, I know this is nothing crazy, but it's still pretty weird that they didn't just add an extra line of dialogue. Or maybe teach us that helping out other people in need is good for you. I don't know. But yeah, nothing crazy, but we got more glitches to look at in here, so let's clear up this rain and keep moving. Staying in just about the same area, and we could technically even see it in the last glitch, there is a floating building. To the right of Alder's house is 2 garages, with one opened up and one closed. Well, the one on the right appears to be raised up slightly higher than the left one. You can see it a little better when looking at it from further away or on a side. I thought at first maybe this wasn't a glitch at all, and was just the game's engine and how it handles buildings, but these are essentially the same sprite, and just one of them is open to show the car inside, and the alignment still looks off when walking near them. There's another matching pair of buildings in town that doesn't have this effect either, so this building is definitely floating. I also used a walkthrough walls cheat code, and as you can see, my feet stay over top of the one on the left, but clearly clip underneath the right one. So just a small visual bug you can see at any point in the game, and since I can't unsee it now, neither can you. It is crazy how many small visual glitches are this close together. Still in Floccesy town, with the two buildings we just looked at, there's actually something odd we can see in the wintertime, which is the best season, by the way, not just in these games, but in life. Anyway, during winter, there will be patches of snow scattered throughout the world. When you run over them, they make this nice crunchy sound and footprints appear. Well, this left house across the street from the Pokemon Center actually has an invisible snow patch. Despite nothing being there, when you run over it, you will hear the noise and also see the footprints left behind. Pretty neat, right? I love anything snow related, so no matter how small this glitch was, I was covering it. Also, fun fact, the house on the right also might have an invisible snow tile too. It makes the same stomping noise when you run directly behind the house, and taking a few steps up, we can just barely see fully behind the house, and there appears to be no snow. But also no footprints are left behind for this one. So this house on the left is definitely glitched, but maybe there's a chance that there's a tiny patch of snow behind the right one that we barely just can't see due to the camera. This also makes me wonder if there are other fake snow patches out there in the world. With how many you can find in the overworld during winter, I highly doubt there isn't another one out there. Alrighty, one more glitch in this area, and this one actually takes place outside the town in Floccesy Ranch where we were earlier. This grass patch off to the left side of the entrance features some glitched grass. For some reason, this tile on the upper right is fake, an imposter, some would say. When you step on it, nothing happens. No sound is played, and it also doesn't show a rustling sprite when standing on it. So kind of like the last glitch, but in reverse. Instead of no snow but the sound and animation playing, this one shows the tile, but doesn't do anything. It is also impossible to encounter any Pokemon on this tile, even when using honey. So another classic case where maybe this wasn't a grass tile and they added it in last minute, but it also seems incredibly odd that they would just add a single grass tile to this specific spot, so I don't really know what happened here. While we're done with the Floccesy area, I do like chaining glitches together, so let's look at some more weird grass tiles. I also looked at this one in the original Black and White 1 video. On Route 3, next to the left route gate, there is this patch of tall grass. Taking a quick glance at it, nothing really seems wrong. But keep looking for a few more seconds, specifically the alignment of the rows. For some completely random reason, the two columns on the left side of this patch have an extra grass tile smushed into it. Compare these with the fourth column from the left, as that's what these should look like. Those have 6, while these have 7.
Don't do the joke.
When you stand in a normal grass tile, your character ends up in the middle of that sprite with an extra part appearing. But when you stand in these glitch ones, you'll stand like in between two of them, and the extra piece of the grass sprite is a little off as well. Even just following a row as it goes across, they're all neatly aligned, and then it just gets screwed up. So yeah, very odd. I've seen some glitchy grass in other games, and the one we just looked at, but I don't think I've ever seen the devs try and shove 7 grass sprites into 6 tiles. Alright, I love this next glitch, mainly because it takes place at Pokestar Studios, which is one of the coolest side things you can do in these games. You do have to do one film here to progress the story, so many might skip over the rest of this pretty fleshed out area. You go to the film studio, pick out a script, and enter the filming area where there's a green screen, a director, and all that jazz. Depending on the film you're shooting, you'll get different scripts you have to follow in order to get certain endings, which will unlock more films. The battles during filming also look really unique with all the green screen and props going on. Anyway, when you finish filming, you can go over to a separate movie theater building to watch yourself on the silver screen. They completely transform the battle you filmed into a cinematic masterpiece with a storyline and everything. Your character even gets to talk during them, which I don't think happens anywhere else. While all this is really neat, there's a pretty simple glitch we can do. So the first time you film a certain movie, you have to use the provided rental Pokemon and let it play in theaters. Then, if you pick that same script again, you can use any Pokemon you want. We need a film where we get to have 2 or more Pokemon, so I choose Bryson Man Strikes Back, as the 2 rentals are Lucarios. So now I get 2 choices. One of those Pokemon in your party needs to either have the move U-Turn or Volt Switch, which are pretty similar to begin with and will both trigger the glitch. Now during the filming battle process, we just need to either use Volt Switch or U-Turn and have a Pokemon to switch to, so I'd recommend just setting them as the lead. But yeah, that's it, just use the move. It'll say the message, Raichu went back to see Willy, or whatever the Pokemon you're using and whatever your name is. You get the idea. I just want you to keep that message in mind though, where it says my name and the Pokemon. This is why we needed to have another Pokemon to switch to, or else you wouldn't get this message. Anyway, nothing crazy happens during filming, we just need to wrap shooting and head over to the theater to watch our finished product. Once it reaches that point in the battle where we use Volt Switch or U-Turn, the message will come up as, Raichu went back to... with just nothing there. No trainer names or anything, just a grammatically incorrect sentence. That's gotta tank box office sales. But seriously, this glitch likely happens because in these movies, no matter what your actual name is, you'll be given a nickname or a screen name, I guess you could call it. And in this case, I have Raichu, and I'm called the Raichu kid in the film. So it's likely that the glitch message that came up was trying to put in my real name, see Willy, like it does in normal battles, but couldn't since we're the Raichu kid now, which is likely what it should have said anyway. So nothing crazy, but it's a glitch involving Pokestar Studios, so I had to cover it. Also, this glitch will not trigger if your co-star's Pokemon uses U-turn or Volt Switch. It'll come up with the correct name. So we have to film a movie with our rental Pokemon, go back in with 2 Pokemon of our own, use Volt Switch or U-turn in battle just to see some missing text in the theater. Totally worth the 3 hours I spent setting this up. So this is another multi-generation battle glitch that has different effects in different games. I've talked about it in Sun and Moon, but it's different from Black 2 and White 2. We need to have some pretty specific Pokemon and setup in general, so I'll be using 2 of my own Pokemon in a double battle to set this up. First, you need a Pokemon that has a move or ability that can disable the use of items, like the move Embargo, which shuts them off for 5 turns. To see the full effect of this glitch, you will also need a move that actually removes the item completely, like Knockoff. It might seem pointless to have both, but you'll see why in a minute. Then the other Pokemon is our test subject, so sorry Scrafty, I love you, you'll be getting put through the ringer here. Anyway, the test subject just needs to be holding a choice item, like Band, Scarf, or Specs, which locks them into using one move, but gives them special effects like attack boosts. So once you have these, find a double battle. I start by locking my Scrafty into a move Bulk Up. Pointless, I know, but it's just for the sake of the glitch. Then the next turn, if I try and use any other move, the game does the usual message saying that the choice band only allows the use of Bulk Up. However, I then had my Bayonet use Embargo on my Scrafty, which disables the use of items. So the turn after it, it breaks my choice item lock and allows me to use other moves. This on its own is kind of neat as we can break our own choice band in the middle of it. However, it does not mean the choice band attack boosting power will work with all moves now. It just treats these turns like Scrafty wasn't holding anything at all. However, I then have my Bayonet use Knockoff to completely get rid of the choice band from this battle. Even when I go to the summary screen, it still says no item is being held. Cool. Makes sense, I guess. However, part 2, Embargo only lasts for 5 turns. So when those turns are up, I go to use any other move and the message says the none allows the use of only Bulk Up, which is pretty wrong not only grammatically, but also game-wise. My Scrafty is no longer holding an item, so how on earth am I locked into a move by the none? This is because when the embargo ends, the game tries to take the state of the Pokemon it was in and apply it back, aka restoring the choice band's effects of the boosted attack and locking it into one move. However, it didn't even check if my held item existed before restoring the move lock, as I clearly don't have it anymore. Again, if you were locked into a move while holding a choice item and then had it knocked off, you would be able to freely use any other moves again. But in this special state where the items were disabled by an ability or move, in our case embargo, it glitches. This scenario is pretty specific, but honestly not that crazy to have happen in a battle. So it's really strange, and the message alone is pretty funny just seeing it say, the none only allows the use of Bulk Up. Going back to surfing glitches, this one's not technically surfing on land, and it's only like half getting out of bounds. It's kind of tough to explain, so let me just show you. We need to start in Virbank City, run down and technically enter the Virbank complex for a moment, and use the staircase on the right to reach the lower canal section. Keep going up and to the left, and you see this boat kind of just sticking out here? This is what we'll be half clipping into. The main issue with showing this glitch is that it's right behind this house with the blue roof, but we need to stand in this exact spot where there's a little piece of railing and staircase sticking out on the left side of the roof, face up and press A. This will allow us to surf, so say yes. Even though you can't really see where we are technically surfing on a tile that wasn't intended, which is underneath the lower right corner of the boat floating in the water. The reason I say this is unintentional is because as soon as you surf to the right and try and go back, you will be blocked. So you can't surf to this tile, you can only be on the ledge and start a surf onto this tile. So that's why I kept saying we're getting like half out of bounds. Like imagine we were on the upper side and this tile is actually solid land, then when we start surfing, we end up here, just on the opposite side of the boat. And as soon as you leave, you can't re-enter the tile without hopping off and starting over, which is probably why the devs missed this one as it's wedged behind a building, so big props to whoever found this. Even if this building didn't exist, I can't imagine our sprite would look too crazy. Maybe the upper left portion would be clipping inside the boat, if that. So personally, I like the other one tile surfing glitch is you can actually see that one, and we end up on land. Next is another very easy out of bounds glitch. It takes place on Route 19. technically the first route you'll stumble across. However, we need surf in order to access this area. In the middle of the route is this body of water. Surf up and to the right and you'll see this staircase. Now when you walk on it and try and hold up, it does what you expect and you smash your face into the wall. But if you're on this specific row of steps, you can clip through the wall and end up technically out of bounds. Surprisingly, you're even able to move right one tile and end up further into the wall, basically making us disappear. Can't really do anything in here sadly, it's just this 2-tile section. But hey, we're out of bounds and it makes for a cool place to save. Other than that though, that's really it. There are other routes throughout the world that feature a very similar staircase wall setup, like here on Route 13, but it doesn't have the same missing collision. So to my knowledge, this is the only staircase that does this, and I have no idea why. One route over, on 20, is another glitch you can see in an area you can only reach by surfing again. But we also have to be in the autumn season, which takes place in March, July, and November. Yeah, I know it's odd, but the seasons cycle every month, which actually is kind of nice. Anyway, find this section of water, surf on it, and then go down and to the right. Since it's autumn, this area will be covered with leaves, which we can fall through on certain tiles and get stuck for a moment. There are also a few Pokemon Rangers here, like Brett on the left side. There's a pitfall just above him that's slightly different from the rest, and when I say slightly, I really mean slightly. When you fall into this one, the shadow doesn't get removed like the rest, so your face of your sprite gets slightly darker on the lower half until you pop back out. It is very hard to see, but it is there and doesn't happen with any of the rest of them. You see how when I fall in, my face stays brighter? Well, this one, they didn't update the shadow for some reason, so we can kind of just clip underneath it. Again, like the last one, nothing really special or even good about this, but whatever. It wouldn't be a Pokemon glitch video if there wasn't some way to glitch the PC. This one can make Pokemon disappear. Kinda. Locate any PC and select Move Pokemon. Now just find a box that has Pokemon in it. We now need to use the touchscreen to perform some actions. You cannot use the buttons for this for some reason. Start by tapping a Pokemon so this menu appears, then tap the box name at the top so this other menu appears. Now select Switch Box. Tap on another box to switch to it, and while this menu is still up, tap back to the original box. You will now notice that the Pokemon is just gone. Not really though, it's just invisible. If you put your cursor over where it was, it'll still show its stats and everything. But you can't move it around in here and even shift boxes without it correcting. It's only when you switch boxes when the Pokemon is not selected will it restore its sprite. Interestingly, if you do the same setup and instead of pressing B to close the switch box menu, you tap the arrow icon in the bottom right and you go and select a Pokemon, a red blob will appear in its place. This is just the outline that appears anyway, but with the actual sprite missing, it does look pretty odd. So have fun making your Pokemon vanish for a little bit. It could be a funny way to trick your friends into hiding Pokemon or just making them confused. Well, it's not often we can cause an NPC to glitch the game. We can literally make one do one of the most sought after glitches in Pokemon and something I wish we could do, walk on water. In Undella Bay, east of Undella Town, there is a bay. If we simply surf to the right a few tiles, we will hit a sandbar type thing that we can stand on and find Ace Trainer Summer. She seems to be living a normal happy life on this little patch, but what you don't know is that she can just walk on water. You'll see me trying to take a step right, but can't without hopping back on her Pokemon to surf. Well, if we just chill here on this drop-off part and wait for Summer to look over at us, when she does, she'll begin walking over and just walk on water. The splashing sprite doesn't even show underneath her, as she's technically not supposed to be able to do this. This party trick is kind of reserved for that certain religious figure, right? Nope, Ace Trainer Summer can do it too. Even after the battle, she'll flex on us performing a glitch I really wish we could do ourselves, but I guess this is the next best thing. Can only really trigger this once, so if you've already fought her normally, just by walking up to her on the sandbar, you won't be able to trigger it again. So next time you're playing through these games, definitely give this one a try for some good goofs and laughs. So I talked about this one in my original black and white video, and I'm still confused today as to which tiles are the glitched ones. In Nimbasa City, just above the south route gate, are these lights sticking out of the ground. If you walk over the top 5 lights in either column, your shadow does this weird thing where it clips underneath the light texture. But then if you stand on the bottom one, it stays over top and it doesn't clip at all. So I have no idea why these ones in the bottom are so special, or if the 5 ones above are the ones that are special. If we head over to the park section to the east, we can actually find similar lights on the floor, and they all behave like the bottom 2 where the shadow goes fully over top. They all do this except for these in the very bottom right by the fountain. These lights aren't centered in a tile so we can't stand directly on them, but when we walk around them, you can see that the shadow kind of clips underneath them, like the top 5 in this city itself. So I'm going to run with the conclusion that the ones where your shadow clips underneath are the glitched ones. My only real guess as to why this happens is that when you walk over these, your character sprite is 1 pixel lower in the ground than the other one, so that's why your shadow clips, but I really can't tell. Not that any of this really matters, I just spent 20 minutes looking at light textures that don't affect our lives in any way. But still, let me know what you think and if there are any more light tiles that do this. So this is kind of a weird one. So as you know, you can view a Pokemon summary, and on the second page, it'll show their ability and a description underneath, letting you know what it does. Like here with Ice Body, I regain HP in a hailstorm. Well, if a Pokemon is holding any type of mail, like Bridge Mail M, read it, close it, and then go back to a Pokemon summary. Now when you go over to read the ability, the description is just not there. It's weird because the text does flash on screen for a split second when the screen first loads, but then it just becomes a blank box. You can fix this very easily by just switching back to the other page and going back, so I'm not sure why reading and closing mail triggers this, and only one time. Maybe the game telling the mail text to disappear also unloaded the ability description? I'm not really sure. This just reminds me of the glitch in Diamond and Pearl where if you use honey in a Pokemart, the shop's text just disappears. So yeah, a glitch that's not difficult to trigger or correct. Here's one that could have happened to one of you playing, but is pretty rare to trigger unintentionally. So scattered throughout the world are hidden grottos. We can interact with a patch of trees and enter inside. In here, they can be rare Pokemon, or ones with better stats or abilities. We don't actually care about them though. We just need to have a repel active or an egg in our party that's close to hatching. Our goal here is to have the egg hatch or the repel run out on the same tile as the exit, which is just where we came in with this patch of light. So we need to time our steps by running around here and have our last step be on the exit tile. I did this by saving my game, walking around and keeping a mental note of how many steps until the repel ran out, reloading my save, and then walking so I start going down this narrow strip with 9 steps left. This took me an oddly long amount of time to figure out where I needed to walk and when. Finally, I got the message to appear as I was standing at the exit. When you close the repel message or after you hatch an egg, if you try and leave, you are not able to. It just plays the bonking sound effect like you're running into a normal wall. Only when you face a different direction or take a step up will it correct itself and let you leave. This is likely just because walking onto this tile usually auto triggers the exit, but the message appearing on the screen kinda interrupts it. Kinda like our last video on Heart Gold and Soul Silver where the poison message appearing on screen in the middle of a ledge made the Pokemon float. This message interrupted the exit sequence, and we're not technically supposed to be able to stand on this tile anyway. It's just supposed to trigger the exit when you step on it. Either way, not really useful, but kinda neat. And I guess there is a good chance that someone accidentally triggered this glitch and just so happened to have a repel run out or an egg hatch when trying to leave a hidden grotto. This is one of the more popular ones you might have seen before, clipping through NPCs. Castelia City is based off of New York City, meaning it has way too many people living in it, which is also the case for Unova. On the side streets, there will be countless NPCs running up and down trying to get to work and whatnot. If you try and run into their path, they will change lanes to move out of the way. Well, if you use a bike and go full speed at one, they won't be able to move out of the way in time and we kind of just clip right through them, which is pretty odd and might ruin their day, but pretty easy to do. I swear I even clipped through some of them just by running and turning into their path at the last moment. So, as someone who's lived near New York City and had to deal with millions of people crowding the streets, I really wish you could do this in real life too. Well, this is a glitch I've covered like 3 or 4 times at this point, but it's just because it's in so many different Pokemon games, being too fast for Trick Room. If you've watched my other videos like Sun and Moon, you're already very familiar with this glitch, so I'll cover it a little faster than normal. So basically, Trick Room is a field move that literally says, slower Pokemon get to move first for 5 turns. Again, slower Pokemon get to move first for 5 turns. But, as some of you know, that is just not the case. The game doesn't literally look at everyone's speed stats and determine the order that way. It runs a calculation when Trick Room is activated to flip the speed stats around. However, the limit to this speed stat calculation is 1809. So any Pokemon with a speed stat higher than that will break the formula and overflow, essentially ignoring it altogether. In Gen 5, I believe there's only one Pokemon that can break through this barrier, Speed Form Deoxys. Mine is level 100 with Hasty Nature and perfect EVs and IVs. It also has the move ability, which boosts their speed stat by 2 each time. So in battle, I bring them out, use agility 3 times so its base speed is brought up from 504 to 2016, which is greater than 1809, and you can even see during the setup, I'm already moving faster than the level 26 Clink. Duh. So when I use Trick Room, on paper, Clink should go first, right? No. Have you been listening? So even after Trick Room is active, with a move description of slower Pokemon get to go first for 5 turns, my Deoxys still moves first, basically because they are too fast for the game to handle. Pretty cool, right? The weird thing is, this has been in Pokemon games since Black and White. Even in Scarlet and Violet, you can do the same exact glitch to completely ignore Trick Room. It kind of makes me think the devs know about this and still just leave it in anyway, but why would that make any sense? My guesses are A, they don't think it's that much of an issue as it's a very rare thing and likely too hard to set up in competitive tournament battles, or B, they just don't want to or can't correct or fix the logic for the formulas done when Trick Room is activated. But the simple fact that the move's description says slower Pokemon move first with zero mention of oh, most of the time, or something makes me still believe that this is a glitch. So yeah, I've droned on about this glitch for probably a total of 15 minutes at this point, combining all the segments from each game's video, so let's move along. Just kidding, that's the end. So there were a whole lot of glitches in Pokemon Black 2 and White 2. If you missed the original video I made and want more Unova glitches, check out my other video on Black and White 1. A good chunk of glitches got patched out between the releases, there's still plenty to do in those games too. But I am happy and relieved to say that all the DS Pokemon game glitches are done. Diamond, Pearl, Platinum, Heart Gold, Soul Silver, Black 1, White 1, and now Black 2 and White 2. So expect a big multi-hour compilation video as well if you want to see all the DS glitches in one place. Up next, we'll probably cover some of the real old games like Fire Red and Leaf Green, or if Legend ZA ends up having a lot of glitches, we might do that one first instead. Breaking the fourth wall here, I am recording this a day before Legend ZA comes out, so I have no idea what's in store for that. Also, as one final reminder, if you're hearing this, you clearly like my videos, so please consider subscribing if you haven't already. It really does mean a lot to me. But for now, I'm gonna get up out of here. Thank you guys so much for watching, and as always, see ya!